These are 10 Christmas movies from the 1990s that crashed spectacularly at the box office, losing millions and crushing Hollywood's holiday dreams. From talking dogs to amnesia-stricken wrestlers, the decade that brought us Home Alone also delivered some of the most catastrophic Yuletide failures in cinema history. November 21st, 1990 marked the premiere of The Nutcracker Prince, kicking off the decade's string of Christmas disasters. This Canadian animated adaptation of the beloved Tchaikovsky ballet lost a staggering 80% of its budget, pulling in only $1.4 to $1.7 million against an $8.5 million production cost. Kiefer Sutherland, Peter O'Toole, Phyllis Diller, and Megan Follows lent their voices to the project, creating an impressive cast that should have drawn audiences. Warner Bros. Gave the film minimal promotion though, essentially abandoning it to fail. The production history makes The Nutcracker Prince particularly fascinating because the film started life as an R-rated adult animation in the style of Ralph Bakshi before getting reworked into family-friendly fare, and this dramatic shift contributed to its confused identity. The financial disaster rippled beyond just the film itself. The movie's failure contributed to the cancellation of the Raccoons TV series, showing how one box office bomb could take down an entire production company's slate. Rotten Tomatoes gave the film a dismal 25% rating. The Nutcracker Prince quickly faded into obscurity, remembered now primarily as a cautionary tale about mismatched ambitions and poor marketing decisions. November 8, 1991 brought All I Want for Christmas to theaters, and the film became a modest box office disappointment. The film earned $14.8 million domestically against a $12 million budget. But with no international release, the numbers meant failure once marketing costs got factored in. Two children attempting to reunite their divorced parents in time for Christmas formed the plot, essentially a holiday-themed take on the parent trap. Thora Birch and Ethan Embry starred as the young leads, both of whom would go on to bigger things, along with Leslie Nielsen as Santa and the legendary Lauren Bacall. People magazine reported that the movie was made in just 6 weeks and that rushed production schedules showed in every single frame. Paramount chairman Brandon Tartikoff had fast-tracked the film from a planned 1992 release to 1991. The original director, Tom Eberhardt, got replaced during production, and these troubles manifested on-screen as a film that felt hastily assembled and emotionally hollow. Roger Ebert declared the film phony to its very bones in his review. 7% on Rotten Tomatoes tells you everything about critical reception. All I Want for Christmas stands as a perfect example of how executive meddling and rushed production can doom even a seemingly foolproof holiday premise, reinforcing that you can't manufacture Christmas magic on a 6-week shooting schedule. November 24th, 1993 brought George Balanchine's The Nutcracker to theaters, carrying the weight of genuine tragedy. The film lost approximately $17 million and became infamous because director Emile Ardolino passed away just 4 days before the movie premiered on November 20th, 1993, casting a shadow over what was already a troubled production. Macaulay Culkin starred in the lead role, capitalizing on his massive success from the Home Alone franchise. $19 million went into production, but the movie earned only $2.1 million at the box office, making it one of the decade's most significant financial disasters. Producer Arnon Milchan clashed with Kit Culkin, Macaulay's father, over Kevin Kline's narration throughout the production. Critics found Culkin distracting in the role despite his legitimate ballet credentials, and audiences stayed away in droves. The 1986 Maurice Sendak-designed Nutcracker, the motion picture, earned only $751,727, establishing a pattern of failure that George Balanchine's version continued. 50% on Rotten Tomatoes made it the best-reviewed Nutcracker adaptation at the box office, which tells you everything about this property's cinematic track record. Ardolino's passing, family drama, and audience rejection combined into a perfect storm of holiday heartbreak. The film remains a sobering reminder that even A-list child stars and respected source material can't guarantee success. November 5th, 1993 saw Look Who's Talking Now premiere, effectively ending one of the decade's most profitable comedy franchises. $12 million in losses came from earning just $10.3 million against a $22 million budget, particularly devastating because the original Look Who's Talking earned $297 million on a mere $7.5 million budget. Dogs as gifts, a Santa subplot, and a Christmas Eve climax made this firmly a holiday film, replacing the franchise's beloved talking babies with talking dogs voiced by Danny DeVito and Diane Keaton. This creative decision backfired spectacularly because audiences had zero interest in canine commentary. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 25 reviews represents a rare achievement in failure. Roger Ebert gave it 1 star while Gene Siskel awarded it 0 stars, and their brutal takedown became more entertaining than the film itself. John Travolta appeared during his career nadir just 1 year before Pulp Fiction would resurrect his stardom. The franchise never recovered, and no 4th film was ever considered. The film ranked 47th at the 1993 box office, behind films that have long since been forgotten. Look Who's Talking Now serves as a masterclass in how to destroy a lucrative franchise by replacing what audiences loved with something nobody asked for. December 21st, 1994 brought Mixed Nuts to theaters, and the film lost between $8 and $13 million. $15 to $20 million went into production, but the film grossed only $6.8 million domestically. And what made this failure particularly shocking was the incredible talent involved. Nora Ephron directed fresh off the massive success of Sleepless in Seattle, which had earned $228 million. Steve Martin, Madeline Kahn, Adam Sandler, Liev Schreiber in his film debut, Jon Stewart, Parker Posey, Rob Reiner, and Gary Shandling filled out a cast stacked with talent. This Christmas Eve comedy about a crisis hotline should have been a hit. Audiences expecting a Nora Ephron romance were confronted with a dark French absurdist comedy instead, and the tonal whiplash doomed the film commercially. Mixed Nuts earned a Metacritic score of 14 out of 100 and a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 16%, while CinemaScore audiences gave it a C+. Siskel and Ebert savaged the film, and it seemed destined to be forgotten until something unexpected happened. By 2024, Mixed Nuts had developed a cult following, with Delia Ephron expressing that she was completely shocked at the anniversary interest. The film's offbeat humor and stellar cast have earned it a second life among those who appreciate its weird charms. Mixed Nuts represents a fascinating case study in how Christmas box office bombs can become beloved cult classics. Sometimes audiences need decades to catch up to a filmmaker's vision, but either way, this is one humbug that found redemption even if it came 30 years too late. December 2nd, 1994 saw Trapped in Paradise open, and the film became the decade's biggest single-film financial disaster by losing approximately $29 million. $35 million went into the budget, but only $6 million came back in domestic gross. And this Christmas Eve bank heist comedy starring Nicolas Cage, John Lovitz, and Dana Carvey crashed spectacularly. Director George Gallo allegedly didn't actually direct the film, and John Lovitz later claimed that Nicolas Cage directed scenes himself. Lovitz dubbed it "trapped in shut" in interviews, and his assessment proved prophetic when Roger Ebert awarded the film half a star and suggested it should be preserved by the Library of Congress as an example of creative desperation. 3 criminals rob a bank on Christmas Eve in a small town where everyone is unnaturally nice, and that premise had genuine potential. The execution was a mess of confused tone and wasted talent though, with Rotten Tomatoes critics giving it a 10% rating. The movie ranked 47th at the 1994 box office. Trapped in Paradise represented a significant investment in comedy talent during the holiday season, and the studio clearly believed they had another Christmas hit. Instead, they got one of the most expensive coal lumps in cinema history. The film has gained some cult appreciation over the years, but it remains primarily remembered as a spectacular failure. November 18th, 1994 brought The Miracle on 34th Street remake to theaters, and the film became a victim of terrible timing. Mara Wilson and Richard Attenborough starred, both fresh off 2 of the biggest hits of 1993, which were Mrs. Doubtfire and Jurassic Park respectively. Casting the man who brought dinosaurs back to life as Santa Claus seemed like genius. 60% on the Tomatometer made it one of the better reviewed films on this list. The film opened to only $2.7 million though, and finished its run with $17 million domestically and $46 million worldwide, numbers that actually represent failure when measured against expectations. The Santa Claus had opened just 1 week earlier on November 11th, 1994. Tim Allen's holiday hit earned $19.3 million in its opening weekend, 7 times what Miracle managed, and The Santa Claus went on to gross $190.3 million worldwide, while completely overshadowing the Miracle remake. Audiences had already chosen their preferred Kris Kringle movie. Macy's refused to participate in the remake, stating that the original stands on its own, in a rejection that hurt the film's credibility. The story has a silver lining, though, because Miracle on 34th Street found massive success on home video by selling approximately 8 million VHS copies. The film became a staple of family video collections throughout the late 1990s. Quality films with great casts can fail if released at the wrong moment. The film's home video redemption proves that Christmas movies often have longer shelf lives than their theatrical runs, becoming traditions through repeated annual viewings rather than box office dominance. November 8, 1996 brought Santa with Muscles to theaters for only 2 weeks, and the film became one of the worst-reviewed Christmas films ever made. Hulk Hogan's vehicle grossed a catastrophic $220,198 total, with an opening weekend of just $120,932. Blake Thorne, a wealthy health supplement mogul who gets amnesia and believes he's Santa Claus, was Hogan's role. The plot has him defending an orphanage against a mad scientist played by Ed Begley Jr., who wants to access power crystals in the catacombs beneath the building. Mila Kunis appeared in her film debut, though she later compared it to American Psycho 2 when GQ asked about it in 2011. Variety described Santa with Muscles as a weakling of a comedy and said director John Merlowski directs with all the enthusiasm of someone going through the motions to pay off a debt. Chris Hicks at the Deseret News wrote that the film makes Arnold Schwarzenegger seem like Laurence Olivier, while Mary Ann Johansson called it a deeply awful comedy before adding, "Believe me, it's even dumber than it sounds." Jordan Belfort, yes, that Jordan Belfort from The Wolf of Wall Street, executive produced the film as one of 8 low-budget disasters he financed. Santa with Muscles ranks at number 62 on IMDb's Bottom 100 Movies and appears on multiple Worst Christmas Movies Ever lists. WrestleCrap featured the film because Hogan's involvement made it relevant to that particular Hall of Shame. Santa with Muscles represents the absolute nadir of 1990s Christmas cinema, a film so incompetent and misguided that it achieved a kind of infamy. Unlike other films on this list that found cult redemption, Santa with Muscles remains universally despised as a holiday disaster that no amount of Christmas magic can redeem. November 13th, 1998 saw I'll Be Home for Christmas open, and the film lost approximately $18 million. Disney produced this vehicle with a $30 million budget, expecting Jonathan Taylor Thomas's home improvement popularity to translate to box office success. The film earned just $12 million worldwide, though, opening to $3.9 million and finishing in 6th place. Jake, a college student who must get from Los Angeles to New York by 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve to win his father's Porsche, was the premise. After helping athletes cheat on a final exam, Jake gets dumped in the desert wearing a Santa suit with no identification or money, while his girlfriend Allie, played by Jessica Biel, accepts a ride from Jake's rival Eddie. The film came out about 2 years too late to capitalize on JTT's peak popularity. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 23% rating, with the site's consensus reading, "Neither parent nor child will find any merriment in this mess," though audiences were slightly more forgiving by awarding it a B+ cinema score. Jessica Biel and Gary Cole did their best with the material, but the script was fundamentally flawed. The film tried to emulate classics like Home Alone, but lacked the charm and clever execution, and critics described it as having subpar acting and jokes about farting canines and old ladies that fell completely flat. Teen idols have expiration dates, and studios need to strike while the iron is hot. Disney's attempt to create a new Christmas franchise around JTT failed spectacularly, and the film remains a forgotten relic of late 90s attempts to manufacture holiday classics around TV stars whose time had passed. December 11th, 1998 brought Jack Frost to theaters, closing out the decade's Christmas disasters. $40 million went into the budget, but the Michael Keaton film earned just $34.6 million worldwide, losing approximately $6 million, though some estimates suggest losses as high as $51 million. Keaton played a musician who passes away in a car accident on Christmas Day, then returns 1 year later as a snowman to spend time with his grieving son. George Clooney was originally intended for the lead with director Sam Raimi attached, but when Clooney dropped out to do Batman and Robin, Raimi left as well, and the project fell to Keaton and first-time director Troy Miller. Jim Henson's Creature Shop created the snowman animatronic based on Clooney's features before he departed, and they never properly redesigned it for Keaton. Roger Ebert called it the most repulsive single creature in the history of special effects, then went further by stating that Jack Frost could have been co-directed by Orson Welles and Steven Spielberg and still be unwatchable because of that DMN snowman. $7 million came in during the opening weekend, with the film landing in third place. 17% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.5 on IMDb reflect the critical drubbing, with reviewers noting the creepy appearance of the snowman, cringeworthy dialogue including lines like, "A snow dad is better than no dad," and an extremely childish tone. The same year brought a straight-to-video horror film also called Jack Frost, about a serial criminal who becomes a snowman, and the two films are often confused. Both are terrible, just in different ways. Jack Frost marked the end of Michael Keaton's attempts to be a family movie star. Keaton wouldn't find major success again until his Oscar-nominated performance in Birdman in 2014, which ironically dealt with an actor trying to escape his association with a franchise character. Everything that can go wrong when studios try to manufacture heartwarming Christmas content shows up in Jack Frost. The premise could theoretically work in skilled hands, but the misguided decisions piled up until it became one of the decade's most memorable disasters. Home Alone, The Muppet Christmas Carol, and The Nightmare Before Christmas came out of the 1990s as some of the greatest holiday films ever made. For every classic, though, multiple disasters crashed spectacularly while losing millions. These 10 films represent over $100 million in combined losses, countless damaged careers, and a decade's worth of misguided attempts to capture Christmas magic. Some of these films, like Mixed Nuts, found redemption through cult followings, while others, like Santa with Muscles, remain universally despised. Hollywood learned important lessons about rushed production schedules, the limits of star power, the importance of timing, and the fundamental truth that you can't manufacture holiday magic with talking dogs, amnesia-stricken wrestlers, or terrifying snowmen. Even the biggest studios with the most money can't guarantee success, especially during the most competitive season of the year. Christmas turns out to be something that can't be bought or manufactured or focus grouped into existence. That's kind of comforting when you think about it. A reminder that authentic experiences and genuine emotions still matter more than production budgets and star wattage. And that's a lesson worth remembering every holiday season.